Today, I'm learning how to weld, MIG welding to be specific. So I have all of the things that I need. I have my welding helmet, my cap for my hair, and I have my gloves, my welding table, and a bunch of other things that I'll show you. Like this protective jacket, which is making me feel so hot and sweaty, and also these steel toe boots, so I have a good layer of protection for my feet as well. So today, I'm dressed like a lot of you say that I should be dressed here on my channel, but I understand for welding, I need all of these layers and protection, but for everything else, too much. This is my beginner welder, but believe it or not, it can do a lot. It can do MIG, obviously, TIG, stick, and a lot more. But enough of that, let's get to welding. Back at my welding corner. So I know that this setup is like a bit weird and it feels like a TV show, but I thought this is the best way that I can show myself along with everything that I'm doing, especially since with welding, I can't be switching around. I have to stay in one place. And I feel like I couldn't have picked the worst month out of the year to practice welding or just to weld in general here in Phoenix, because it is probably like 116 outside. I do have my air coolers on here in the shop, but they're kind of like, it depends on the air where you stand on, where you feel it. I do have a fan that I bought, but then I can't position it this way towards me because then it's affecting the gas. So that's just something I have to deal with on top of all of these layers. I already did come here like a few days ago and practice. I feel like my ponytail's too tight. This is the issue when you have long hair. I feel like for men especially, they could just put on everything and go. I have to like figure out how to put my hair. I came here a few days ago and I practiced for like an hour or two. That was a joke. No, not that a joke that I practiced. It was a joke basically how I welded. I figured, you know what? I just need to watch more videos. I've watched a lot, but I need to watch even more to just figure this out and just figure out the technique. But I figured after watching them, it requires a lot more practice. So that's exactly what we're doing today. And another thing that I realized practicing for like 1 or 2 hours is that my vision, it's really hard to see. So I did watch a few videos that suggested to get a light. So I am going to have a light that wraps around here just so it could be a lot brighter for me. I felt I was struggling with that. And also there's like a cheater lens that you can put in the back of the hood. So it can just be a little bit zoomed in. Unfortunately, it didn't get here in time. So I hope that the light is enough. Then I also kind of struggled with this placement because it would just come too close to my nose and my mouth, but I feel like that's fine there. I just have to like tighten it and untighten it. And then these gloves, these are MIG gloves, but I feel like they were too thick. So I'm thinking maybe for next time I'll do some TIG gloves so I can just have a better feel of everything, of just the gun and then as I'm welding. But let's see. So let's just go ahead and get started. I guess I should tell you why I'm even welding in the first place, because I know this is very left field for my channel. That is because I'm going to weld mainly the floorboards for my Mustang and my Camaro. There are a few other things, but that is the biggest job when it comes to welding. I couldn't find a mobile welder to come here and weld them, and I couldn't take it anywhere because it is a shell. I mean, I could, but that's too much and I'm not going to do it. And after practicing, I understand why there's no one willing to just come mobily and just weld. But today I'm going to be welding 12 gauge metal. A few days ago, I tried 18 gauge metal and that was so thin, it kept just getting really hot, warping really fast, and I just didn't have much of it, so I just tried putting together. It was just a big mess. I'm hoping that this is going to be a lot better. However, I do need to learn on 18 gauge because that is exactly the thickness of the floorboard for the Mustang and the Camaro. But I'm kind of taking it a step back, making it a little bit easier myself with a thicker metal. And also this welding table, I like working on it. I just hate that it feels either too short for me standing and it feels too tall for me sitting. So I'm just going to be doing a combination of both depending on how I'm welding. For my first trick, I'm going to attempt to just weld in a straight line because that was very hard for me to do, mainly because I felt I couldn't see well and I just couldn't keep going straight. I would end up curving somewhere else. It wouldn't end up penetrating through the metal. It kind of just kept bubbling up, but I think that has to do with the settings and maybe with the fan and the gas. So I have to play around with that. I honestly found spot welding easier, but even then I struggled. So let's just get started. Another thing that I was struggling with was the stick out length of the wire. It was either too short or too long, and depending on my movement, it would just stick out too long and it was just struggling to weld. So now I just have it like about 1/2 inch. That's what I found is probably like the best. Let's try. Let's just try a straight line. That right there, I feel like I'm going too slow, and also the stick out is a lot. So I need to be a little bit faster. I think also the metal, I just wasn't touching it. I don't know why. So let me try again and have the metal touch the entire time. Hey, that's actually pretty good, but I kind of was deviating from it, but that's probably as straight as I've gone so far. So this straight line is actually pretty good. I'm impressed with it myself. The only thing is that I'm just having issues seeing it. I'm guessing where to go. So I'm just going to try positioning myself a little bit more sideways to see if that's better for me. And I'm just going to attempt continuing the line. So it's pretty good, but I cannot grasp the fact of going straight. It just went totally like I was going to the corner. My main issue seems to be just going in a straight line, so I'm going to try sitting and then positioning myself in front of the puddle. I feel like maybe I should be able to see it better, but I still can't see shit, so let's just go for it. This positioning feels very weird. And I feel like maybe if I had like a line or the light, it would help, but let's just try this. So I feel like that one started off pretty good, but then it was too slow and then it just thinned out. Oh, but I guess this makes sense because my stick out for the wire is too long. So let me just try that again. So then that just means that I'm pulling back and I need to just stay still and then just have more contact. Just keep the contact, which apparently is just something I'm struggling with. I have a light. I don't know if this is going to help. It did help someone on YouTube that recommended this. The only bad thing is that the moment I put my hood up, the light will fall. So I just need to remain like that. So let me try the same thing again, and I'm starting on the opposite side, so there's no line that I can follow or guide myself from. So let's try to keep contact and go in a straight line and hopefully with better vision. So again, I'm struggling with pulling up. It's a bit straighter. The light did not help for shit. I still can't see, but it started off good and then I could see when I started pulling up. I'm going to try the same thing again, standing, see if that helps. Oh my God. It's good. I feel myself shaking, so that's the issue that I'm having. And then I do see how this one kind of went more up and then it just kept going in a straight line because I felt my hand. In a perfect situation, I would have somewhere to just keep my hand steady and then keep welding, but I know that's not the real world. And when I'm welding on the floorboard, there's nothing to support myself, so I have to learn how to just freehand it and keep my hands as steady as possible to keep going straight. I don't know if this is cheating, but I'm just going to mark a line with a marker and then see if I can follow that. Even though videos that I've seen people mark with like a marker or chalk where they want to weld and then follow that line, or even if like two metals are together, so maybe I need that. And I'll also change, this is so hard with this glove, I'll also change my hand positioning to give it a little bit more support, and I think that would make it better. So let's see if I can follow that brown line. I know my issue in this one. So I did start off pretty good and I stayed on the line, but my stick out is too long. So maybe I just stayed on there too long and I just need to do it a little bit shorter, stop, take a look, make sure everything's fine, and then keep going. But I'd say for the most part, the line did help a little bit. I drew 2 more straight lines. Let's see if I can do better. So that was actually pretty good. I stayed on it. So let's see if I can continue and just finish that line. Definitely not in one try, maybe like in 2 or 3, just so I can assure myself that I'm still in the right track, on the right track. Okay. So we're still looking good. Obviously I'm not perfect, so I can't go straight, but that is pretty straight to me compared to all these other ones. Wow. I am impressed. Finally, feels like it was so much harder than it needed to be. But yeah, you can see how the first line just went down and then I managed to keep it straight, mainly changing my hand positioning. Finally, I got it. So since that one was pretty good, I am just going to try to finish it on a straight line. Hopefully I can continue doing it this good, at least in my opinion, for me as a beginner. Wow! I am so happy with this. This looks good. I'm proud of my work. And it also shows penetration in the back, so we're good. So I think I still need to continue practicing, obviously on my own time, but I think I got the hang of the straight line. So I guess it's all about the hand positioning. Man, I can still feel the heat with these. It's now a little bit more complicated. I guess this is like level 2, which is more, no, this is the exact, or more of a real life scenario when it comes to the Mustang when doing the floorboards. So now I'm going to try to put tacks on 2 sheets of metal that aren't connected. So I already have it with like just the perfect gap, at least I think that's a good size gap, and put 2 tacks. So I'm gonna put one at the top and one at the bottom and see if that penetrates together, because I was really struggling with that when I was practicing the other day. And I made sure to put these on the circles because then I ended up penetrating to the welding table. So I had to struggle removing that. So let's see how this goes. I am a little bit nervous because I'm not good at this, but I need to learn. So since those were tacks, I think that's pretty good. It didn't fully penetrate, but enough for me to just be able to hold these 2 together. Obviously I won't bend it because it will come off. So now, since these are held together by 2 tacks, I'm just going to try doing that line and see if that penetrates and holds them together. So again, I'm just positioning them in the center of these holes in the welding table. So hopefully it doesn't weld to the table. I think I got too good at making a straight line that I just kept the line right below that gap. So at least I know how to make a line and going straight now. I was making another straight line above, but this time, this way just worked a lot better for me. I was able to see it better, and then I pointed it down more, and then I was able to stay in that gap. So I guess I'll try it again, doing the same thing that I just did, and then hopefully I can stay within that gap because I can see better. I will attempt to weld that gap from the back of the same 2 metal pieces. So I already know that I was sticking up, but I did manage to stay in that gap a lot better than before. Yeah, it is. Woo, it's not that hot. Yeah, so I stayed in the gap and then I could see exactly where I started pulling up because now there's little holes there. So I just need to try it again and just keep that in mind. I don't know why I have just this urge to pull up subconsciously, but in my mind, no. So I'll just try to reinforce that. So I know I need to keep practicing with the gap, but moving on because then I will stay here for hours. So again, 2 pieces of metal with a gap, and I'm going to do, I'm still don't understand completely the terminology because I've heard these terms used interchangeably in many videos. So either butt welding, spot welding, there's plug weldings. I know you have to make a hole for that one, but I've also seen it called, when it's just like dots on it, stitch welding. So I'm basically just going to start off by doing 2 tacks again, and then I will do a spot weld or a butt weld or whatever out of all these terms, and then move like an inch and do another one, and then start doing it closer. So in reality, after I'm done, I want it to be like a straight line of just spot or butt welds, and they kind of look like they're stacked. Okay, so now that I have my 2 tacks, I'm just going to I'll just make a spot an inch, and then just probably like 2 or 3 spots, because they're probably going to be like about almost like an inch apart, and then start making them closer. So I think that one was pretty well, and I know you're not supposed to have this slag on here, so let me just cut this before. I have to say I love spot or butt welding because I am so much better at it, at least by practicing that one time, compared to just making lines. These look pretty damn good, if I say so myself, at least for me as a beginner. And I did see that in a few channels where you give it heat and you do your spot weld and then you just leave it there and then you just continue again to make that perfect weld. So now that I have these, I will go next to them and then space them out equally. So the idea is to just have a complete line of just spots, and then it's just one complete weld, which is what I'm going to do on the Mustang for the floorboards. I'm going to spot weld, butt weld it, however you call it. Again, I'm just going to now make some spots or butts in between these. And I know that you're supposed to be giving it some air for it to cool down, but I'll do that when I'm actually welding with the Mustang. For now, this is just practice for me to get the proper technique. That was pretty good. The only thing, there's just one that I kind of went a little bit higher than that gap. It still went, like part of it still went in that gap, but everything else is pretty good. So now I'm just going to go in between those again until I get closer and closer together. What I have noticed with spot welding is that the length of the stick out really does matter, and also the angle, because that could make it or break it once you see it on the metal. So I kind of play around with it, and I think I've kind of gotten the hang of it because these look pretty good. I feel more proud of my spot welding than just a straight line, just because I feel I'm a lot better with this because I can take my time, and it's just small areas. I feel like this does take a lot longer, but I prefer it. So now I'm just going to go in between those remaining gaps. So now, since this is getting really close, ideally I would just weld and then give it some air so it can cool down and then keep going to the next one. But I'm not going to do that now. I'll obviously do it when I spot weld in the Mustang and the Camaro. So what I'll do is just, I'll start on this side, and then in order to let it cool down, then I'll just move on to this side and then just work my way like that until it's all welded. So I think I managed to cover it all. The only thing is that I did notice that once they start getting a lot closer, there's a lot more splatter, but the welds still look good. And then it gets harder to see, so I can't wait until like my cheater lens that kind of magnifies everything inside the hood gets here, because since it gets harder to see, I want to go closer, and then I can smell the fumes. So that's kind of like why towards the end I got closer to look, and then when I was going to weld, I would pull the trigger, I would just pull away further. And then also with the splatter, I'm assuming it's because it's still hot. I mean, I could feel it's really hot with my gloves right now, but not enough for me to burn myself, which I did feel that with the 18 gauge the other day. So again, ideally I would blow air on it just so it can cool off and then continue that way. And I'm assuming there wouldn't be splatter. I am going to do it the right way with the Mustang and the Camaro, but it's just about practicing today and getting the technique down. So I think that looks pretty good. Obviously I would grind that, but I think for now, I am going to weld on the opposite side and then grind them and then just test it to see. I'm all set up to grind these welds off. Usually in the real life and how I'll do it, it won't be clamped, but this is practice, and I didn't get to practice this last time when I was welding, so this is my first time, so I'm even more nervous with this. And I do have an angle grinder with flap discs, but that's too big for this little small piece. But obviously that's what I'll use on my cars. So for now, I'm just using this angle die grinder with a 36 grit disc or pad. So I'm going to try my best to grind them off without it looking like scratched paint. I did see some YouTube videos, so I'm just going to try to attempt the same thing that they were doing in my mind. So I think I'm just gonna start on a small little area, then stop, see how flat it is, if I need more, and then just work my way instead of attempting to do it all in one shot on my first try. All right, here goes. Trying to stay just in this line or as much as possible. I think it's probably taking a long time because I'm not giving it enough pressure, so I'm just going to try giving it more to see if it just does it faster. Obviously, I know I will. I'm just a little nervous. Okay, so that did work in grinding it more, but I do see that it is also getting a little bit of this side of the metal, which isn't good. I mean, for practice, it's fine, but if it was like on a panel of a car, then I wouldn't want that. Good thing I'm not working on a panel of a car, so I'm going to try to just keep it more centered. This is it's kind of hard, but let's go for it. So this is how it looks. You know, it wasn't too hard. The only thing is that when it was clamped, it kind of like stood at an angle because of the welds underneath. So that didn't help, and that's why I ended up grinding a little bit here, which that was the main thing that I was trying to avoid. Other than just grinding it and getting it as flat as possible, I was trying to avoid that, but I couldn't just because it was at an angle. So it feels like most of it is off. There is one area here where it does feel like I went a little bit too much, but it's just kind of getting the hang of like the pressure of the disc, the angle. So I mean, I don't think it looks too bad for my first time. I know that this was a bit of a boring video. It's not like my usual videos, but honestly, I think it was fun. I find welding fun, and I like how I can just see my mistakes and my fixes right away, and then I'm like, okay, I can do this different, or at least try it a different way. I still need way more hours of just welding practice before I start with the Mustang and the Camaro. But even before that, I have to cut those floorboards, which I haven't practiced at all. I'm just going to go straight to it and just cut. But I enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys have any tips for welding, I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.